Hello Canada! Welcome to the Next 36 application webinar for our 2014 cohort. My name is John French. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events, and over the next hour we'll be here to answer questions you might have about the program, figure out ways for you to strengthen your application to the Next 36, and learn about what it's like to launch a venture in the program from 4 of the entrepreneurs that are currently part of the Next 36. Before I introduce the rest of the panel, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. First of all, just to highlight that applications are now open for the Next 36 and will be open until our October 7th deadline. I advise you to apply early. I think all of you know how busy things are on campus during September, and you don't want to be rushed when you're completing your application. So that's my first piece of advice. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been receiving questions from you via our email address, which is info@thenext36.ca, and also via Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @next36, and the hashtag that you've been using, or that we're encouraging you to use for your questions, is #N36apply. We will be receiving questions live from across the country using that hashtag during the webinar. So please continue to use that hashtag. There will be questions that we're not able to get to during this hour, but I assure you that our team will follow up with all of the questions within the next couple of days. Another request is to remember to mute your microphone. For the sanity of everybody else watching across the country, please keep your microphone on mute. And then a couple of key dates that I also wanted to highlight are Venture Day. Next 36 Venture Day will be on August 13th, live from Mars Discovery District, and that will be also streamed online. So if you're not in Toronto, you'll be able to watch that from wherever you are. On August the 14th, the following day, we'll be having a technical application webinar where we invite some of the technical co-founders of the ventures in the Next 36 to talk about their experience building businesses. Then at the beginning of September, we will launch our countrywide campus tour where Next 36 staff and alumni will be going to university campuses across the country to talk about the program. And finally, we're very excited to be launching our first ever hackathon on September the 13th and 14th in Waterloo in Toronto, hosted by Google, and there'll be more information about that competition in the next week. The last piece that I'd like to highlight is that not only is this streaming live, but we are recording today's webinar. So if there are questions that you want to go back and hear after the fact, or if you can't stay for the entire duration, we'll be posting the webinar live to the site within the next few days. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce the 4 entrepreneurs that are with us today who are part of the 2013 cohort of Next 36. They joined the program at the end of November at National Selection Weekend and are now 3 weeks away from completing the program. On August 13th, they will pitch to angel investors, venture capitalists, national partners of the program, and a various number of other stakeholders at Mars and watching live their ventures. So I'd like to start with Sandra, and we'll go through Michael, Mallory, and Joshua. I'd like to thank them for being here.
Thank you. So my name is Sandra 5 Mars. Je viens de la ville de Québec. J'ai déménagé à Sherbrooke pour étudier à l'Université de Bishop en anglais. So at Bishop's University, I was involved in the Enactus group, so the Entrepreneurship initiative. Being part of that group led me to manage a group of 30 people, create connection with people in the community, and also make sure that we were promoting entrepreneurship on campus. So this experience led me to be excited about promoting entrepreneurship, and I think that prepared me well to be part of this program.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Chang. I study at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, British Columbia. I study in a program called Interactive Arts and Technology with a dual concentration of design and media arts. As both a designer and an entrepreneur, I can surely say that there's a lot more parallels between design and entrepreneurship than most people know. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of iteration, a lot of prototyping involved, and I'm here at the Next 36 to take my entrepreneurial journey to the next level.
My name is Mallory Brody. I'm a recent graduate of the Richard Ivey School of Business at Western. Throughout my university experience, I was very involved with Biz Inc., which is an accelerator on campus, the Entrepreneurship Club at Ivey, and I completed my certificate in entrepreneurship at Ivey as well. I originally kind of got interested in entrepreneurship when I was originally applying to Ivey, and that kind of just, the fact that they had an entrepreneurship institute sort of sparked my interest, and I really wanted to start a business, so I ran an online student art gallery throughout my years of university. It gave me kind of all the skills and knowledge to kind of what it took to get a business off the ground, and now that I'm part of Next 36, I'm able to kind of learn the lessons that I wish I had known back in university. It's really just improved my overall business foundation, and now I really feel confident going into the future with the company that we've started with the Next 36.
Hi, my name is Joshua Liu. I just graduated from medical school at the University of Toronto, And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. In high school, I started Smarts, which became Canada's largest youth science network. When I was an undergrad, I started a blog that's been read by many high school and undergrad students. And then even while in medical school, I started 2 small businesses on the side. So I love entrepreneurship. And the great thing about the Next 36 is that's allowing me to start a bigger company with a much greater impact. I'm so excited to share what we've been doing.
Perfect. Thank you. At the Next 36, we're very proud to take students to the level where they are CEOs or founders of businesses in a 9-month period. And one of the things I know everybody watching at home wants to hear about is what it's like to start a venture and what exactly it is that you're building. So maybe this time we could start with Joshua and talk about your venture.
Sure. So my company is called Seamless Mobile Health, and my co-founders are Philip Chen and Willie Kwok. So while in medical school, I got immersed in hospital readmissions, which is one of the biggest problems facing healthcare today. So every year, more than 7 million patients in Canada and the US are readmitted back to hospital within 30 days of leaving. And this problem costs our healthcare systems more than $27 billion each year. And the incredible thing is that up to 75% of readmissions are completely preventable. So to solve this, our team developed Seamless, which is a mobile platform that empowers patients to manage their recovery process after surgery and enables hospitals to catch complications earlier. So in just 7 months, our product has won first place at Canada's National eHealth Conference. And we're so excited to see that our technology will be piloted with one of the top 20 medical colleges down in the United States in August. And we're actually looking forward to piloting with other hospitals in Canada and the US. And we're excited to see how far our company will go.
My company is called Bridget. I'm working on it with my co-founder, Lauren Hasegawa. We started back in December, spending a lot of time on construction sites, 6 months exactly, speaking with site supervisors, project managers. We knew we wanted to focus in on the construction industry because Lauren's a civil engineer. And through that research, we found a problem called deficiency management on site. Deficiency management could be a crack in the drywall or a door frame that hasn't been installed correctly, and it's costing construction companies millions of dollars in delays every single year. So at Bridget, we're creating a communication platform for field workers on site. We're starting with construction, but we're looking to expand into other industries that have a lot of field workers. Right now, we're testing with some companies, the largest general contractors in Canada, and we actually had our first sale on Monday. So it's a very exciting time for Bridget, and we're looking forward to the coming months.
6 months ago, I started a company called Needle with my co-founders Chris Bowell and Sean Kim. And Needle is a platform that helps employers find the right designers to get projects like web design, graphic design, and UI design done. So over the past few years, I've been a freelance designer. I've worked full-time at agencies and eventually started my own agencies as well. And throughout that experience, I saw that a lot of employers were struggling with finding creative professionals. And so our platform makes that super easy to do. Employers can simply sign on, type in what they're looking for, the location of which their talent should be in, and it gives you a list of viable candidates that they can look into to get the project done. And we launched our prototype first in about February when we first started 2 months into the program. We beta tested it with companies like Starbucks, Ubisoft, and Rogers Communications as well. We launched our product officially in May, and within the first 2 weeks, we got paying customers from all around the world. We continue to grow our user base, and we're currently raising a seed round right now from a handful of very interested investors.
So my company is called Music Quest. My co-founder and I, Louis-Philippe Couture and Owen O, have been working on that for the past 5 months. So after we found the idea, we went into music schools and we asked them what was the biggest problem they found, and it was to get the kids excited to practice every day so they're ready for the next lesson. So we're creating a mobile application that will give the students a companion that is powered by their music practice. So the goal is to get them excited to practice every day so they are able to progress more in their learning process. So right now we're really excited because we sent the third version of our application as of today for an approval for the App Store, so it should be out in the next month. And our goal is to make sure that our app is ready by September when all the students are going back to school.
Great, thank you. And for those of you who are learning about the Next 36 for the first time, there are 12 ventures in the current cohort of the Next 36. Information on all of these businesses is available on our website, as well as information about alumni ventures that have gone through the program. To see our 4 panelists and the other ventures pitched this year, again, I recommend tuning in on August 13th to Venture Day. You've heard a bit of an elevator pitch from the four ventures that are represented today. I want to give a quick pitch on the Next 36 for anybody that, again, is new to the program and our value proposition. So the Next 36 is a national entrepreneurship immersion program that identifies a very small group, 36 of the most exceptional student entrepreneurs from across Canada every year, and we give them the resources that they need to transform themselves into high-impact entrepreneurs. The real measure of the Next 36 will be 10, 15 years down the road when we look at the business landscape, the Canadian business landscape, and we see how many of those companies have been founded by alumni of the Next 36. So there's a real long-term vision to the program, as well as the short-term successes of the ventures that you're hearing about today. The resources that we provide to entrepreneurs are incredible. We provide ventures with up to $95,000 in seed capital to launch their business. They receive mentorship from some of Canada's top business leaders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, people like Jordan Banks, who heads Facebook Canada, Sarah Prevette, who founded Sprouter.com, have been mentors for the program. They receive access to education from some of the top faculty on the planet, to be frank. Professors from Harvard Business School, MIT, Sauder out at UBC, Rotman at University of Toronto teach students about what it's like to launch a business, and they apply it directly to the venture that they've formed. You also receive in-kind resources to start your venture from some of our national partners, organizations like Osler's, who provide legal support to launch the business. Rogers provides data sets and smartphones and data plans. Ernst & Young, EY, provides advisory services, accounting services, media training. The list goes on and on. Mars is an incredible supporter, providing market research as well. So you have access to these resources, as well as a network of business advisors. Over 200 of Canada's top business leaders are advising you and working with you as you launch your business. And finally, you have a peer network of 35 of the top young aspiring entrepreneurs as well. So this is what we provide to the entrepreneurs who are part of the Next 36. I want to go over very briefly some of the eligibility requirements because we've already received a few questions via Twitter on that. All of the information, though, is available on our website, and that's the place to go for the most accurate and up-to-date information. But really quickly, the eligibility requirements to apply to the 2014 cohort of Next 36. We're looking for students that are in their final two years of study in an undergraduate program or have recently graduated in 2013 from an undergraduate program. One of the great things about the Next 36 and that you just heard from our panelists is that we accept entrepreneurs from all universities, from all parts of the country, and from all academic backgrounds. We also accept college students who are completing a 4-year applied degree program, and the program is designed for Canadian citizens, or if you're an international student who intends to pursue permanent residency, you're also you're also allowed to apply. There is more information for international students on our website because that's a question that comes up quite regularly. The application process is done entirely online. There are 2 stages. The first stage is done by providing information on your program, your university, and 3 short answer questions that will ask you about your track record of entrepreneurship and why you think you belong in the program. The second stage is conducted via Kiera Talent, which is a venture that grew out of the 2012 cohort of the Next 36. Kiera is an online interviewing platform where you'll receive a series of pre-recorded questions. You'll have a set period of time to think about your answer, and then your webcam will turn on. You'll hear that it can be a bit of a stressful, but it's a very exciting experience because it replicates a real-world interview setting. And you'll have 45 seconds to respond to the questions that are asked to you. You'll also, if you indicate on the application that you have some or an advanced level of technical or programming experience, there'll be a technical programming challenge for you to complete as well. One of the questions that has already come in from, I believe it's Ready, Set, Go in Vancouver at SFU is what can you do to make yourself stand out or to strengthen the video component of the Next 36 selection process. And so I'll give a couple of pointers and then I'll ask a few of our entrepreneurs to tell you about what it was like for them. From the Next 36 perspective, what we would ask you to do is, first of all, think about where you're going to have your answers recorded. You want to be in a place where there's minimal background noise, visual distractions, and you also want to come across as professional as possible when you answer your questions. Be confident, be charismatic, use examples where applicable, but also be direct and succinct. You'll have 45 seconds. There may be a case where you don't need to use the full 45 seconds, or you can use it wisely. So being able to think and respond under pressure will be key. I'd like to pass it over maybe to Sandra to talk about her Kiera Talent interview experience.
Yeah, so when I first sat down in front of my computer and I heard the first question, I was so stressed during the time I had to think about the answer I wanted to give. I couldn't think straight at all. So the first answer I didn't give an answer I wanted to give, but after the first one, I was like, okay, let's take a deep breath and take this stress and turn it into positive energy, because the entire goal here is to make sure that the interviewer see you as they would see you in a real life context without stress, because the goal is that you want to be selected for who you are and not be influenced because of stress. So what I say is take a deep breath and make sure that if you have an answer that you're not too comfortable with, make sure that you forget about it and move to the next one.
Perfect. Joshua, what was it like to be interviewed by Kiera?
Sure, yeah. So I was in my last year of medical school, and I was actually doing some training in a hospital in a rural town in Ontario, so I was far away from home. But the great thing about Kiera is that's online, so I was able to do the interview anywhere. And I think my advice would be to show your passion and your conviction for being an entrepreneur. The more driven you are, the more energy you have in the interview, the more they can see how badly you want this opportunity. So make sure that's really clear when you present yourself.
Perfect. The next question I have for Mallory, where did you hear about the Next 36 and what motivated you to apply?
So as I mentioned earlier, I studied at Ivy, and it was actually an Ivy alumni who came in to speak to our class one day, John Kelleher. He was also the mentor for Kiera Talent, and he was just kind of talking about his experience in the professional world. And I just went to talk to him afterwards, and he had mentioned that he was a mentor for the Next 36. So that's kind of how I originally heard about the program, and I obviously looked up to him. So the fact that he was telling me about it was a good sign that it might be something worth looking into. And then the following summer, I had a friend that was working for John Kelleher and interned for Kiera Talent, and she was kind of raving about it all summer. Like, you'll never believe like the mentorship these students are getting, the support from so many different companies. And I was already interested in entrepreneurship, so just hearing through her experience, I was really sold on the program. So as soon as the application came out, I applied basically. I was really excited for it.
Terrific. Michael, same question. How did you hear about the Next 36 and what inspired you to apply?
Yeah, so the Next 36 actually came to SFU in Vancouver for an info session. I actually heard about it 2 years ago, but during that info session I actually didn't apply because I very much like many of you maybe came up with reasons like, oh, I would never make it in, or that my chances of making it are so little I shouldn't bother with it. But I really regretted it throughout that year that I didn't apply, and they actually came back to SFU the following year, and I knew that I wouldn't pass up that opportunity. So if anybody's feeling that way the same way I did, go ahead and apply. You won't regret it.
Perfect. I'd like to highlight 4 very exciting modifications that we've made to this year's application process after speaking with successful entrepreneurs and the alumni of the program. And I know I can speak for my entire team in saying that we think it will allow us to attract and motivate and inspire even more young entrepreneurs when it comes to the Next 36. All of this information is available on our website. So the first modification is that you are encouraged, if you have a co-founder that you have worked with or you want to work with, you are encouraged to apply with that co-founder. And if you have an existing venture, there is a possibility that you're able to continue building that venture as part of the program. Keep in mind that you have to apply still as an individual and encourage that other person to apply, and you must indicate their name or names on your application. And then if all of you are selected as finalists, you can self-select or identify each other as the co-founders that you want to build your venture with. And if you're able to be governed and you agree to the Next 36 shareholders agreement, then you'll be able to build that venture as part of the Next 36. The second exciting change has to do with the scope of the ventures that can be built as part of the program. Historically, entrepreneurs have built businesses that focus on mobile, web, software in that space within technology. We're expanding it this year to include hardware because a number of entrepreneurs have reached out to us with an interest in building a business inside that space. The caveat is that you must be able to reach significant milestones during the relatively short 9-month duration of the program. And you'll need to, coming into National Selection Weekend, be able to identify what those milestones are that you're going to be able to hit. The third change has to do with team formation. We are putting the onus on the finalists this year to identify the types of co-founders that they want to work with. So applications will close this year on October the 7th, and October 23rd, starting October 23rd, all of the finalists will find out that they've been invited to National Selection Weekend. Your first challenge will be to identify the co-founders that you want to form a business with and to work in the weeks heading into National Selection Weekend on a business idea that you will pitch to become part of the program. And the final exciting change has to do with the team size and the background or the makeup of the teams that are inside of the program. Given that Next 36 Ventures will focus on technology businesses, it's a requirement that each venture has a technical co-founder, which is one of the reasons why we ask about technical capability in the application process. Ventures will also want to have a business development or sales co-founder in all likelihood, and also someone with user experience, design capabilities. A lot of the teams will also want to have a subject matter expert or someone with industry expertise in a certain area, because that can fast track your venture to success. The other modification to think about when building your team is that while teams of 3 co-founders is highly recommended, teams of 2 or 4 may be considered under certain circumstances. For more information on any of these changes, my advice is to definitely go to the website, and if you're unsure if your situation has some unique circumstances, please email info@thenext36.ca and we can provide you with more detail on those modifications. One of the points that I highlighted is the need to have, or the benefit of having, someone with some industry expertise already on your team. And most of the ventures in this year's program that have some early traction, that's the case for them. So maybe I could ask Joshua to talk a little bit about what it's like having in-house expertise on Seamless.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I spent the last 2 years in medical school studying hospital readmissions with some of the key thought leaders in Ontario. So when we went out to build a product that would help solve that problem, it was much easier for me to go after the relationships I already had with various hospitals and doctors and nurses, and also even going to hospitals that I hadn't met before, having my medical degree, being able to communicate and discuss the problem using the same language hospitals use, made it much easier for us to actually get into a hospital and get them to use our technology.
Perfect. How about Mallory and Bridget?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lauren is my co-founder, and she's a civil engineer and worked on construction sites for all of her co-op terms throughout university. And it has been completely invaluable to our team. Just remembering my experiences at Ivy when I was working with other business students to come up with ideas, it was extremely difficult because we were all coming from a very similar background, whereas as soon as Lauren and I got together and started working on our idea, it was obvious that we would start by focusing in on the construction industry because that's where she had experience and connections. And our team has worked really well together because I don't come from a construction background, so I'm able to kind of ask her questions that maybe she wouldn't have thought of initially just because it was kind of an everyday type event for her, but it stands out to me as being inefficient in some way. So that was really a powerful connection for us to have in identifying the problem. And now that we're more onto business development and sales, kind of her existing connections have been extremely helpful to us. So I highly recommend it.
Great. Michael, how is having a design background benefited Needle? And if you can find the right type of entrepreneur who also has that skill set, how can it help a venture excel in the Next 36?
I would say that wherever there's a problem, there's opportunity. And the better you can understand the problem, the better you can create a solution for that problem. So as you heard from Josh and Mallory, their teams had a very deep understanding of the problem that they were trying to solve, and that was our case as well. Having been a designer for a while and experienced the problems with connecting with employers and vice versa, I really understood the very small components every step of the way of why that's a frustrating experience. And that insight allows us to take apart the problem and solve it piece by piece. So I would say that a really good way of explaining industry expertise is someone on your team that really understands a problem really, really well.
Perfect. I'm looking at a string of questions coming in via Twitter. I'm not getting all of the handles, but I know one question has to do with the length of the interview questions on Kiera. And the question from Sorab Soleimani, apologize if I messed that up, is is there 45 seconds to think about the answer for the online interview questions, or 45 seconds allowed to record the answer? My answer to you is that it depends on the particular question. It changes with every question. You have to get to the Kiera stage to find out. Another question that is coming up is how much weight is placed on applicants running past businesses versus entrepreneurial projects, which is a great question. That's from Why Do It That Way? To be honest, if you have a track record of starting actual businesses as opposed to projects or clubs, if you can demonstrate what you've learned from starting those businesses and where you might have failed and what you've learned from that failure, it's going to resonate very strongly with the Next 36 selection committee. We're looking for people who have a track record of entrepreneurship, and starting a business is one of the best ways, if not the best way to get it. Having said that, we're looking for students that have a much broader range of experiences from an entrepreneurial perspective, and I would advise you to broaden your sense of entrepreneurship if you're thinking about applying. That could mean that you've started a social enterprise. That could mean that you started a not-for-profit in your community. Maybe you've started a campus club, or maybe you have excelled through a campus accelerator or a new product design course. So you want to be able to highlight those entrepreneurial experiences, intrapreneurial experiences where you might have been on an internship or a co-op and had to come up with a creative solution to a challenge that was facing your employer. But also think beyond entrepreneurship and think about leadership. We're looking at for students who have received awards, scholarships, and have been involved in some of the significant campus clubs that you've heard about as we interview, within the application process. But having started a business does fast track you when it comes to your application. One of the benefits of the Next 36 has to do with all of the events and the networking. And so I'm going to ask each of our entrepreneurs to talk about one of the highlights or one of the most impactful events that they've participated in this year. We'll start with Joshua.
Sure. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our venture preview night at Google Canada, which was a fantastic facility. And so a couple of our ventures got the chance to pitch to some of the investor community there and some of the community of the Next 36. And our company at Seamless was very fortunate to actually come away with the most hypothetical investor dollars given out that night. So it was great validation for the work we're doing. It was awesome to see that so many people are excited about healthcare and making it better. But at the same time, it was also great to see all the other ventures and celebrate their achievements as well.
Terrific. Mallory?
Yeah, absolutely. The New York trip was definitely one of the highlights for my team. A number of the ventures got to go on a trip to New York to meet with 4 VCs. It's an opportunity that there's no way you would really be able to get outside of a program like this one. Union Square was one of the VCs, and we met Fred Wilson, who's one of the partners and founders there, who's completely iconic in the venture capital world. So just being able to sit down at a table with him, pitch our idea to him, and get feedback from such intelligent and well-known people was an amazing experience for us. Our business specifically, we knew wasn't really part of their investment thesis, but the fact that they were still able to give us such good advice just really made the trip for us. So that's definitely been a highlight for Lauren and I.
In response to the networking component of the question, so 2 months into the program, when we had our prototype developed, we were already beta testing that with some of the largest ad agencies in the world, like DDB, Ogilvy, Havas, Sidley, RGA, and also companies like Starbucks, Rogers, and Ubisoft. And so the opportunity to get in touch with some of those executives and enterprises and be able to put products in their hands early on is one of the most impactful resources that the Next 36 had on our business. As you can imagine, having that insight from such big customers really helped us in the early stages.
And the event that was the highlight of my summer so far was the woman leadership event. So as you may know, in the Next 36 right now, there's only 6 women candidate part of this year cohort, and we want this number to increase. So the Next 36 organized a dinner where we had all the chance to interact with women in entrepreneurship that are running successful businesses as of today. So we had a one-on-one discussion with each of them, and we had the chance to do a roundtable. And the discussion were around what is the position of women in entrepreneurship? How can women aim at leadership position? How can we support each other in our pursuit of success? So for me, that was really inspiring, and I realized that the Next 36 is really supportive about bringing people to achieve their personal and professional life.
Perfect. And I know that that's something that the co-founders of the Next 36 are passionate about, ensuring that more high-impact female entrepreneurs are involved with and come out of the Next 36. And I know Mallory and I have chatted about this a little bit. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on why there aren't more female entrepreneurs, and what we can do, or how the Next 36 addresses that and provides opportunities to female entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so as my position as co-president of the Ivy Entrepreneurship Club, I kind of made it my goal of the year to find out why there weren't more females at Ivy participating in the entrepreneurship-related events. And I kind of determined that a lot of them were more interested in pursuing the sort of conventional career paths that you would with a business degree, such as consulting and investment banking. And a lot of it was because they were risk averse. They didn't want to kind of expose themselves to this risky path after finishing their degree. And so what I really want to communicate is that by the time we even finish the Next 36 program, a lot of my friends that I graduated with won't even started their full-time positions yet. So it's actually kind of a less risky alternative in my mind to pursuing, your more conventional career route, because now already in 9 months, I've completely developed as a professional. I have a business that's, really getting off the ground, and we're continuing on with. And so, there's so many different reasons why women don't go into entrepreneurship that I've, just heard about. But if it's because you're, sort of afraid or intimidated by the risk, I assure you this is kind of the best way you can get away from being in a risky situation when you graduate, I guess. So I absolutely encourage more females to apply, because it's been completely instrumental in my career growth.
Fantastic. At Ian Gerald King is asking a couple of great questions, and one he asked has to do with the regional representation of the entrepreneurs as part of the Next 36, and specific challenges that take place, especially during the national phase of the Next 36. So just to provide a little bit of context, after the entrepreneurs join the program at National Selection Weekend in late November, there's a national phase, or think of it as a remote period, where the entrepreneurs go back to their hometowns, home university campuses, and they work remotely, Skyping with their co-founders, Skyping with their mentors, building their business. And then there's a 3-month period from the beginning of May until mid-August, which is the intense entrepreneurship boot camp part of the program, where they live in Toronto, they participate in classes with faculty from the Next 36, they kind of live, sleep, breathe, eat their venture until Venture Day on August the 13th. During the remote period, it can be a challenge to build your venture remotely. And so in a second, I'm going to ask Joshua and Michael, because both of those ventures have co-founders that are dispersed, to talk about what that experience was like. But to answer Ian's original question, the entrepreneurs and the distribution geographically tends to coincide with both population as well as our overall application numbers. So I would say between 50 and 60% of the entrepreneurs as part of the program come from Ontario or central Canada, and then we have geographic dispersion across the country this year, from Atlantic Canada to British Columbia, but it tends to be based on population, so there are fewer students from those regions as well. And I'm going to throw it over to Joshua to talk about how his venture has addressed that challenge.
Sure. So at Seamless, myself and Philip were living in Toronto, but Willie was back home in Vancouver with a 3-hour time difference. Fortunately, with the development of Skype and Google Hangouts and other technologies, we were able to still communicate and have regular meetings online. But I do have to say that, as far as starting a company, it's really tough. You will have to be driven and hustle and work hard. So, there were times where we had client meetings virtually online at 9 a.m. And for Willie, that's him waking up at 6 a.m. for these meetings, but he was so passionate and driven to move this forward that he was willing to do that. So it is possible to stay in contact and work remotely, but I do want to stress that this is, you're starting a serious venture and you have to be willing to work hard to make it happen.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. So I personally was in Vancouver, my co-founder Chris was in Calgary, and my other co-founder Sean was in Montreal, so we had a 2-3 hour difference. And I have definitely woken up at 6 in the morning for meetings and late at night as well. What we did was we did a Google Hangout every single day, just to recap on what we've accomplished throughout the day, and we also stayed in touch over WhatsApp throughout the day, just to keep that team bonding going. But at the end of the day, you get just as much as you put into the program. So the harder you push yourself, the more you would get out of it. And it sounds like it's very complicated. It's a 3-hour difference. But when you really think about it, the upside is so substantial that it's really a 3-hour difference. If getting up 3 hours earlier can lead to a scalable, high-impact business, that difficulty is very easy to overcome as long as you have the right goal in mind.
Perfect. Maybe Sandra, you want to talk about what it was like during the remote period for you?
Yeah, for us, Owen was in Toronto, I was in Sherbrooke, and Louis-Philippe was in Montreal. So we had the chance to meet at least twice during the 4-month period that we were working remotely. But something really crucial, as Michael said, is to have ongoing discussion every day about what's going on and make sure that you're able to create the team dynamic. You'll be living with your co-founder for the rest of the summer from May to August. So you have to make sure that during the period that you're working remotely, you're able to create a good team dynamic, that you have the same vision with where you want to go with the product. So I think that communication is really key, and making sure that you're able to do a good time management between school, your life if you're possible, and working on the venture.
Perfect. Another question just came in via Twitter about whether or not teams pivot or change their idea once they're in the Next 36. And the short answer is that this definitely happens. One of the things that market research reveals, one of the things that comes out of conversations with our chief venture advisor, Christian Lasson, who is the Next 36 entrepreneur in residence and has experience in Silicon Valley and launching businesses. One of the things that becomes apparent is if your idea is not a game-changing idea or is not on the right track, and ventures are encouraged to pivot if it makes sense for them. At Dustin Paisley wants to know from all 4 entrepreneurs, what has been your biggest obstacle so far during your time with the Next 36? Sandra, maybe you want to start things off.
I would say that my biggest obstacle was to get out of my comfort zone, and that's something I learned from one of our teachers, Reza Sachu, that you have to take more risk. You have to make sure that even though you want to give the best answer, even though you want to make the best decision, time is limited, and you have to follow your gut. Make sure that making a decision is better than not making one. And working in team, that's something that you have to discuss. Sometimes you will have different opinion, but you have to make sure that your communication is open and that you make decision based on the information you have at the moment and go through with them, because this is what will make your venture move forward.
I think one of the biggest challenge so far is really raising money is a big component of the startup experience, and most of us don't have that experience, and that's literally standing in front of investors and feeling absolutely confident that your idea is worth $5-6 million, and you're raising that couple $1 million so that you can take your company to the next level. And it's a very different dialogue than what I've personally been used to, and it's really all about understanding the market size, the financials, and understanding your business inside out, such that it's attractive enough for investors to actually put their hard-earned money into your business. And so it's a huge learning curve, but it's very, very rewarding.
So early on, one of our biggest challenges was just team dynamics. Lauren and I always kind of have been best friends right from the beginning, right from finalist weekend, but we did have some problems with our third co-founder. So just our general learning experience from that was, sometimes for you guys next year, you're going to pick a team and it won't always be perfect. And so it's important to recognize, when those problems can be solved and when you can work through them and make the team work long term, and when it's important to just kind of move on and realize that the best potential for the team to be successful long term is to part ways, basically. So that was a massive challenge for us now, but has definitely kind of worked out for the better in the long term.
I think one of the most interesting challenges I face is realizing how much of a roller coaster being an entrepreneur is. So on a single day, you can go from highs to lows back to highs. You can make a sale with a client and then find out that your next client isn't interested. And so you're constantly learning how to manage all the emotions of running a startup. But one of the great things about that challenge is you get used to managing your emotions, dealing with obstacles and difficult events, and you learn to stay composed in a lot of difficult situations. So at the same time, it's one of the most fun things about being an entrepreneur, that there's excitement and there's risk all the time. So I would say embrace it, learn to deal with it, and work closely with your co-founders to manage it together, and they'll get you through everything.
Perfect. I'm going to come back to Joshua for the next question, which is coming in from @jmichael via Twitter. What sort of time commitment does the national phase of the Next 36 require, and how did you kind of find balance, work-life balance, school, venture balance during that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, we actually talked about this with a couple of ourselves recently, and I think many of us were spending, anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week working on our ventures on top of doing school or work or other commitments full time. So I mean, it's totally understandable that managing your time is going to be difficult, especially if you have school. So, like, all three of our co-founders at Seamless had school 9 to 5, but we did realize that, a lot of our clients, may have to meet 9 to 5. So we had to learn to prioritize different things, and if that meant sometimes having to miss an event in order to meet a client and learn more information about our business and build things, or having to stay up late, work early, we were driven and passionate to do that. And I think that's one of the key components of being a successful entrepreneur, being willing to hustle, being able to work hard at odd times. If you can make that commitment, you're going to excel in the next 36. And just as Michael said, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it.
Perfect. It looks like there's a lot of people that are interested in learning more about the team formation process and how that is going to work. I see Ian at Ian Gerald King again, as well as a couple questions coming in about chat. I guess the first piece of information I would give is that we'll be providing more information on that team formation, those 2 weeks that are going to take place a little bit further on in the application process. But I expect us to not only connect all of the finalists via a platform with each other where they can really get to know who the other finalists are, their strengths, their area of expertise, their passions, but also facilitate meetups both virtually and in person for the finalists to get to know the other people that they could be potentially forming a business with. And the Next 36 is also committed to supporting finalists that come from universities in more geographically remote areas or smaller schools to make sure that they can connect with the other finalists. That's something that's very important to us as an organization. But at the end of the day, the onus will be on you, will be on the finalists to identify who you want to work with and to convince them or to have them convince you why you would found a great team, given those other requirements that I mentioned earlier on with regards to technical co-founder. A kind of variation of that question has to do with if somebody is already working on a venture and there's an individual who does not meet the Next 36 eligibility criteria. So in the instance of this chat question, they are 2 years removed from their undergraduate degree. They won't be eligible for the Next 36, which means to continue that venture as part of the program is not a possibility. That doesn't mean that the entrepreneur who's working on that business shouldn't apply for the program, but you do have to meet all of the Next 36 eligibility criteria and have all of your co-founders selected as a finalist if you want to proceed with that business. Again, because it gets a little more complicated, I'd encourage anybody who is not sure how their venture fits into this process to send an email to info@thenext36.ca. I want to go to faculty because the educational component or the academic component is one of the things that differentiates the Next 36 from other programs that are out there, and ask a couple of our entrepreneurs who their favorite faculty is from this program and why. Maybe we'll start with Mallory on that one.
Sure. So I think my favorite class has been with Reza Satchu, who's one of the co-founders of the program. He teaches economics of entrepreneurship. And I was coming from a case study background at Ivy. And, before entering Ivy, I heard that that there was going to be cold calling and all this kind of thing, and that never really happened. So as soon as I showed up at Reza's class, that's when I got sort of the true cold calling experience. In his classroom, you always have to be on your feet. There's always an opportunity to pitch your business, which will sometimes earn you time with a CEO that's been very successful in the past. He always brings in guest lecturers, and so we've met, a number of really amazing individuals and have been able to learn from their insight. And I guess the biggest thing of all is that Reza is an extremely successful entrepreneur himself. And so the fact that he's able to share his business experiences with us is just completely invaluable and has been a great learning opportunity for me.
Terrific. Michael, how about you?
I would say that my favorite faculty is probably Ajay Agrawal. His classes have always been more on the theoretical side, but he explains concepts so well. So he can take something extremely complicated in a theoretical entrepreneurial business management term and just convey the message so effectively within one line that you would just understand it. And I would say the best way to describe faculty is that I'm sure all of you have went through university with maybe one or two of your favorite professors during that time. And what the Next 36 does essentially is they fly in the favorite professors of every university into a condensed program so that every single course is the top professors of where they come from. So it's been an extremely amazing experience in that sense.
Excellent. Sandra, you're a Francophone student in the program. We've had 6 Francophone students over the last 2 years as part of the Next 36. How have you found the program? Have there been challenges? And what would you say to your peers watching who are thinking about applying?
OK. So, I think I'll do that in French. Donc, je crois que faire partie d'un programme anglophone, venant d'un background francophone, c'est vraiment un avantage, dans le sens où que durant ces 8 mois-là, on interagit avec en anglais toujours. Donc, si votre but, c'est vous croyez que votre anglais n'est pas assez bon pour démarrer une entreprise, pour assister aux cours en anglais, pour interagir dans les cours, soyez sans crainte. Les 5 mois que vous allez travailler de la maison, de l'université avec vos 3 cofondateurs, vous allez être capable d'améliorer votre niveau d'anglais pour que quand vous arrivez dans le programme au mois de mai, vous allez être sûr et certain que vous avez premièrement les connaissances pour être capable d'interagir durant le contexte du programme. Mais je vous dirais que c'est un avantage d'être francophone et bilingue jusqu'à un certain point, puisque ça nous donne l'opportunité d'interagir entre 2 cultures. Puis si votre but, le but du programme, c'est de forger les entrepreneurs du futur, donc vous allez être capable d'évoluer dans un environnement qui va être soit en anglais ou en français. Donc je vois aucun problème à faire partie du programme si vous êtes francophone.
Merci. The next question will be for Mallory. How have you, you and your co-founder, neither of you have a strong technical background coming into the program. So has that been a challenge? How have you addressed it as part of the program? And what could applicants thinking about applying start doing right now to strengthen their application in that space?
It absolutely has been a challenge. We had to go through a recruitment process basically to find a team member to fill that void. And so we'd go to all of these sort of tech meetups. Hacker Nest is one of them, in Waterloo, Toronto, just to kind of really get to know people within the tech community in Toronto. So it was actually at one of these meetups where we found our lead technical, who's Neville Samuel, and he's been working with our team, and he's going to move into an advisor role soon. We're still looking for a technical co-founder, but having that kind of connection with him has been really great for our team. If I could go back in time, basically, and before the application process of the Next 36, I would start involving myself with any sort of development workshops you can find. So programs like Ladies Learning Code are great. They offer Saturday workshops. You can learn some basic HTML and CSS. They have more advanced classes as well. So I think the most important thing is if you're not technical, you don't need to make a goal of being the lead technical person on your team, but it is extremely important to have a good understanding of the technical side. So if you can kind of get to know some of the jargon, learn how to wireframe, Google that if you don't know what it is, then I think that is going to put you in a really strong position coming into the program and will save you from spending time learning those things once you actually come to Toronto for the program.
Perfect. Next one's for Joshua. I'm going to combine 2 questions. One's come in via chat, and the other one's from Twitter. What would a typical day be like during the summer in regards to the workshops, classes, time for building your venture? And I'm going to add on, what is it like living with your co-founders during the summer?
Sure, yeah. So to answer the first question, typically I would say going to a week in the program, Monday to Wednesdays usually are completely on your own as a venture to work on your company stuff. And so, I mean, it really depends on how your co-founders work in terms of scheduling. So, for example, our company usually starts around 9 or 10 and finishes maybe at 6 or later if we're really into it and working. It's not uncommon for us to be working late. And then usually on Thursdays and Fridays, there's class. It can range from either full day from like 9 to 4, or it could be a half a day. So there is some time in the week that's meant for classes, but there's a lot of time in the week to still work on your companies, focus on clients, have meetings. So it is possible to balance both. It's sometimes a struggle when you don't have 2 days to meet clients, but the educational component of the program is so valuable that I think it's worth it to find a way to manage both. In terms of the co-founder living situation, so it's actually very, very neat. All the teams live on a single floor here at Innis Residence, and we all live with our team in a suite. So it's been actually pretty fun living through co-founders, and not just from being able to get to know each other better as friends and build that relationship, but oftentimes throughout the day you're able to kind of maximize your time by when you're having breakfast, you can be having a meeting, or if a new idea pops up, you can just walk like a meter to find them to discuss it. So I think what you'll find is that a lot of the entrepreneurs who end up in the Next 36 are so passionate about startups that like a lot of your day is spent working and discussing on it. So being able to live together just accelerates that process completely.
Terrific. I want to shift gears and talk about mentorship, because mentorship is another one of the strong differentiators for the Next 36 and critical to the program, to the success of your ventures. I'm going to ask Michael if he can talk about who his mentors are, what the relationship has been like with them, and how they've helped Needle.
Yeah, so from the beginning, we were assigned two mentors, Dean Hopkins and Wayne Chang. And from day one, they've committed to helping us grow our business from the early stages all the way up until where we are now. They were doing Google Hangouts with us every 2 days at the very beginning. And then we ramped that up to almost every day during the times when we needed it most. And during some of the downtime, it was maybe once a week. So these mentors are not just by title. They're not just there for you to seek out when you need them. They're actually actively there. They're taking part in your business. They're providing guidance. They're giving you frameworks to work within so you can grow your business in a structured way. And also, they made a ton of great connections for us. Our mentors have introduced us to a number of angel investors and VCs as well. Also industry contacts that's helped us move along much quicker than we would without the mentorship support.
Perfect. One question that's come in has to do with the cost of the program and are there scholarships or bursaries available. So the program does not cost the entrepreneurs in the program anything. The costs are covered by the entrepreneurs, the national programs, and also we receive funding from the federal government that helps to deliver the program. The cost that you are out of pocket for as part of the program is just getting to Toronto for the Toronto portion, the summer portion of the Entrepreneurship Institute, as well as the cost of residence or room and board during the summer. There are bursaries available for students in financial need, and there's more information available on the website with regards to that. Another question that has come in is just who are you looking for and how can I make my application stronger? And I think how can I make my application stronger is really something where we can highlight a couple of points. As you heard from Mallory, even if you're not technically strong, there are things that you can do to develop those skills, whether it's ladies learning code, Hacker Nest, the kind of list goes on, and there's some of those examples on our website. That is something that will help you out. Apply early will strengthen your application because it shows us that you're keen. So that's another piece of advice that I would provide. Do research, whether it's on the Next 36 website, by talking to our alumni and our current entrepreneurs or university representatives at your home school that can provide you with some additional information, and take those steps to go to campus events if we're in your city as well. Because really we are looking for a very small group of exceptional students to apply to the Next 36. I want to shift gears and start to set things up for the wrap-up. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to give one piece of advice to students, to applicants that are thinking about applying. And I'm going to start with Joshua.
Sure, yeah. So I think one key thing to keep in mind is to sort of imagine how the Next 36 can help you accelerate your growth as an entrepreneur and make that really clear in your application and in your interview. So, I mean, research on the website and through past ventures, how they've been helped through the funding, through their mentorship, and really demonstrate that you're gonna be there to not just, get from the program, but also give back and add value through all the hard work you would do. So do your research and make it show that you're actually committed to the program.
Yeah, and I would say just be really confident in the experiences that you do have. Try not to compare yourself to friends you know that are applying or past candidates. It's really hard it's really easy sometimes to say, I'm not good enough, as kind of Michael mentioned. So really just be confident in the experience you do have. Sell yourself in your application. If you make it to finalist weekend, then that's a huge opportunity for you to really be confident in the idea you come up with your team. And throughout the entire program, basically, you need to be confident if you want to be successful successful. So that's my biggest piece of advice for you.
And mine would be get rid of any assumptions you have about entrepreneurship. So a lot of people think businesses are started by business people who studied business, and it's not the case. Entrepreneurship and startup is all about diverse backgrounds coming together to build something truly amazing. So a team can't work if you have 3 top business students. You do need the business background, you need the design, you need the technical, and there's been great entrepreneurs who studied history or social sciences. So it really doesn't matter if you don't feel like you have the educational background. As long as you have the passion to make a real difference in the world, you can play a part in an amazing team.
Yeah, to build on what Michael just said about passion. We're all different in one way, so make sure that like you stand out for who you are and show that you're passionate, that you're driven, show what interests you. Make sure that you build on what you've accomplished in the past according to your current interests and how this is going to lead you to make an impact in the future. So show that you're driven, passionate, and that you love what you're doing actually.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank all of our entrepreneurs for participating in today's webinar, and Mallory on her birthday. And I want to the audience watching across the country, kind of encourage you and challenge you to think about what your next steps are. I would suggest that if you're interested in seeing the Ventures pitch, hearing some great keynote speakers, and watching the awards ceremony where our entrepreneurs graduate from the Next 36, please watch the live streamed Venture Day broadcast, which will be on August 13th. And you'll be able to get more information on that from our website. I would encourage you to continue asking questions via Twitter using the hashtag, or also via email, info@the-next36. Get involved when you hear that the Next 36 is coming to campus. If it's at your university, come out and meet the team and meet the entrepreneurs that are there. And for those of you that are in a computer science program or an engineering student or are just technically inclined, have experience programming, coding, tune in on August 14th when we'll do our technical application webinar, and definitely stay tuned for more on this year's hackathon, which will be September 13th and 14th in Toronto and Waterloo. I want to thank everybody who's been watching, and end by saying that we look forward to seeing your applications to the Next 36. Thank you.